Hey, that last one was cut off a little soon because we had knocked on the door, as you probably would have heard, because there. And Mark said he had a follow-up question for that, so let's go ahead and do that.
The follow up question I had, Ross, is a, a lot are concerned that, okay, rewording the question.
Do your best.
There are those who are dependent on the central banking goodies of, say, Social Security and welfare. They're concerned that if things dramatically change, that they would not be able to live or eat anything.
Okay.
With that in mind, hold on.
Yeah.
With that in mind, if you had an entirely different standard of banking, what would that do to, say, the ability of food or the ability to purchase needed life quality items to where they could live a better quality of life?
Okay. Well, you're going to. Well, first and foremost, I'm going to tell you that you're going to feel a little better for a quality of life in the free markets in the first place. Your first part of your question sounded a lot more like an argument for saying why it can't be happen dramatically, essentially, right?
Mm-hmm.
We can't wake up tomorrow and have a totally free market, essentially. Uh, Unfortunately, the way I feel about it, we're going to have to walk back the way we walked in, essentially. And previously, we didn't have a lot of these things like welfare and Social Security. And I'm using, of course, the collective we in American history because I've only lived in a time frame where we've had welfare and Social Security, and I'm the oldest one in the. No, no, Adam's older than I am, but that's beside the point. Now, without a central bank, though, once again goes with the fact that currency is more or less or money, should I say, right, is a tool of barter. And I didn't say that exactly the same way earlier, but that's more or less how I feel it. Money is a tool of barter. Currency is a tool of barter. And I'm using those as synonyms, obviously. And whatever you can bring into the market as a payment form that's acceptable is considered money. So, in continuation of that thought here is the fact that food's artificially high, which seems strange considering the fact that you can get a butternut squash like I did yesterday for 79 cents a pound, right? But you understand that a lot of people are being paid not to farm in the farming areas, and it seems like a lot of consolidation around trying to have one big company, which we know as Monsanto. Whether or not they're a good company or not, I'm not going to argue that at this point. But the fact is that they're going towards trying to have one or only a few providers of food. We're talking about in the last bill we talked about on the podcast. You mentioned the fact that they would argue that they would say that if you had a garden, you were a farmer. So
You're right. I did report on that.
you did, yeah. And so it's the fact is that in a totally free market, you would be seeking you one of the things you could possibly do is provide food for people, and you'd have more. And because more people would be able to provide food, the price of food would go down, make it easier to purchase from people who are unfortunately stuck on welfare and Social Security right now. The fact is, Social Security will eventually fail. Social Security is current the way it's set up right now. Is going to fail because it's set up as a Ponzi scheme. And the only way a Ponzi scheme necessarily works is there's always a growing base of funds, essentially, as the people retiring, basically in this case, grow older and retire and grow as well. We don't see that happening right now, and not to the extent that it's not that Social Security is necessarily at a loss. And a lot of things in welfare, which I can't get into any great detail, just the fact I don't know enough of it. But to a great deal, what we currently hold in the welfare system puts people in a position where they're dependent on the state. It makes it easier to do that. In which, in some cases, some people are willing to have as many children as they can to ensure that they have a good amount of money coming in from the state. Um, that's one example, the overused example, right? Because there's plenty of people out there who actually would need something hand up in the current situation that don't do that kind of stuff. speaking of our co-hosts and stuff, we have somebody on the show who lives off of food stamps or has recently just gotten off of food stamps, and he and his family needed it at the time, and arguably still do. But in a freer market situation, he'd be better off in the sense that once again, be more providers of food. And if they really want your money, they're going to increase the quality of food. In fact, the free market is going to only really sit there and say positively, prediction wise. A truly free market ends up in a situation where you have things of high quality and things of high quantity. So we go those two extremes. Of course, things of high quality will be more expensive than those of high quantity, right?
Mm-hmm.
But you'll be able to feed yourself.
Well, this has been an exclusive interview with
Ross Gibbons of gotConsentpodcast, and Mark's, of course, right across from here. Before we get anywhere further, because I have 4 more minutes left here in this video, I just want to mention the Somalia thing that was mentioned in your previous video when you asked these questions in the first place to me. To be absolutely honest with you, Somalia isn't a very good example of a truly free market anarchistic society. Since there's a number of factors. One, these guys who provide defense organizations are warlords. Mind you, they have free travel. People in there have fairly good free travel between areas, right?
Mm-hmm.
They are, and a lot of their good stuff that have been poured on do go through areas where they do have regulations. They go for those regulations there, and quite frankly, the violence coming in Somalia right now has a lot more to do with the fact that the UN is going to give money to the official Somali government, which of course means that these people are going to scramble to be considered the official um, Somali government, and that will increase violence there.
For more,
and that would be the problem with having a free market system, actually.
For more, if you have questions for Ross or for myself,
or Adam or Chris, Chris hasn't been on the podcast at all, you can contact us at gotConsentPodcast@mail2noble.com. The good news is a little information here is I actually got us on, I got us in the review process for getting on iTunes.
mm-hmm.
And as soon as I can figure out the ways and means of the revenue sharing option, if you become a subscriber, they'll actually pay us to talk to you guys. So, thanks for showing up and all that stuff. Do you want to say anything?
I'd like to say thank you for watching this exclusive with Ross Gibbons of gotConsent Podcast.
You're Mark Reinhardt.
I'm Mark Reinhardt, also known as Acoustic Freeze News on YouTube, and a contributor to gotConsent Podcast.
A very happy contributor too. Now, before I get into any further here, before I close up, you're gonna end it. You can end it, no problem. Okay. But the show is at 11. Currently only at 11 a.m. Mountain Standard Time on Fridays.
I'm Mark Reinhardt for this exclusive, and that's the way it is.